I'm Chris Hassel. This is CBS Sports HQ. We are right in the middle of the NFL season now, heading to Week 9, and underdogs have ruled the day so far, 55% covering in games, and road underdogs have been even better. They've covered 60% of the times against the spread. The Jets are the road underdogs tonight, getting 10.5 in Indianapolis. Week 9 of the NFL season kicks off Thursday night in Indy with the Jets taking on the Colts. The Jets came into last week's game as a double-digit underdog at home against the Bengals, who were in first place in the AFC. The Jets were expected to get blown out because they had quarterback Mike White making his first career start for the injured Zach Wilson. But it was White who outdueled Joe Burrow and led the Jets to a stunning victory down the stretch.
I just got one freaking game ball. 405 yards passing, 3 touchdowns.
Hey, enjoy this one, boys. Enjoy this one.
As for the Colts, it's shaping up as a what might have been kind of season as they continue to give away leads and lose close games, most recently to their AFC South rivals, the Tennessee Titans.
We know where we're at. Fortunately, a loss like this, we got a quick turnaround.
It's now or never for the Colts if they have any plans on reaching the playoffs. Will they turn it around at home, or will Mike White turn in another surprising performance in Indy? Week 9 is about to get underway. All right, the Killer Bees from the Pick 6 podcast joining us. It's Brinson and Breech. And Brinson, any chance Mike White does it again or even gets somewhat close to what he was able to do against the Bengals last week?
Look, full confession for HQ devotees. Yesterday when I was on with Ryan Wilson, I had the Jets catching plus 10.5 and maybe flipping my pick. I was really just spiting Ryan Wilson. Just wanted everybody to know that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, look, I don't think so, Chris. If you look at his depth of target, I mean, this guy's attempted one pass over 20 yards. And granted, it was a touchdown, so good for him. And only one other pass above 15 yards. They dinked and dunked like crazy. Now, no one is going to sit here and insult the Bengals and call them fools or call anybody who's a Bengals fan a fool. That would be crazy, right? That would be weird to suggest that the Bengals just weren't smart enough to adjust to Mike White's dinking and dunking, and that's why they lost and fell out of the number 1 seed and again, lost to the Jets last week. The Bengals did. I'm just pointing that out. I think the Colts and Matt Eberflus with his zone defense will be able to walk down these linebackers into the short yardage area, prevent Mike White from doing what he did against the Bengals when the Bengals lost to the Jets last week, and dink and dunk all over the place. I think the Colts will make life tough for Mr. White this week.
Brinson, well, here's the thing about that game on Sunday between the Bengals and the Jets. It was on Halloween. The Bengals dressed up as the 2020 Bengals, and we know that team was bad. They couldn't tackle, so it was kind of baffling. That played a big part in why Mike White was able to put up these huge numbers. As you mentioned, they didn't just dink and dunk. It was super dinking and super dunking. We know that Mike White threw for 405 yards. Well, 277 of those yards came on yards after catch that his receivers did after catching the ball. So as you mentioned, he wasn't throwing down the field very often. He was throwing about 2-yard passes, and then his receivers or his running back catching passes out of the backfield. Michael Carter, 9 catches, 95 yards. They were doing all the work. The Indianapolis Colts, they tackle well. They play defense well. After watching film on Mike White, they are not going to let him dink and dunk down the field all day. So there's finally some film on him. There is not going to be this element of surprise. So unless they start taking shots downfield, which is completely possible to get that element of surprise back, but if they don't start doing that, I have a very hard time seeing Mike White replicate the success he had against Cincinnati on Sunday.
Colts need to win this to keep their, right now, pretty slim playoff hopes alive. We'll talk more about that in a second. But, Breech, I'm going to come back to you on Carson Wentz. He's playing better. He's putting together some great drives. And then just out of nowhere, he'll just forget how to play quarterback or forget what to do with the football. What is going on with Carson Wentz with 2 of the worst interceptions we've ever seen in the NFL this season?
Yeah, it was insane that against the Titans, and he throws that pick 6. It looked like he thought he was playing backyard football with his kids, just trying to give them a soft little throw so they could score a touchdown and feel good about themselves. No, you were in an NFL game playing against the best team in your division, and you just cost your team a win. It's really crazy because I think a lot of people, we all thought before the season that, hey, if Carson Wentz can replicate the success he had in 2017, this Colts team could be really good. He's reuniting with Frank Reich, who was with him in Philadelphia in 2017. And for the past few weeks, he was playing at a near MVP level. Not the best quarterback in the league, but certainly he looked like one of the top 10 QBs. He's thrown multiple touchdowns, over 2 or more touchdowns over the past 5 or 6 weeks. And then he just had the implosion against the Titans. But I do feel like he's been so good for so long this season. I think we're going to see more of the smart Carson Wentz. I think Frank Reich has probably been showing him film this week like, hey, look, we win that Titans game if you don't throw the worst pick six of all time. We win that Titans game if you don't throw this crazy interception in overtime. So I think he's probably been stressing, Carson, you are doing great if you are smart with the football, so please be smart with the football. I do not think we will see the same mistakes from Carson Wentz tonight.
Alex Stewart Smalley over here. You're great, Carson Wentz. You try hard, and people like you, too. Don't worry about it. Look, area man beats Texans gets called MVP. What are we doing here? Carson Wentz he's been better. He's been playing a lot better. But he still has these mistakes, these Wentzian moments where he tries to do too much and he tries to extend the play and he tries to he gets out of structure and he forces things. I mean, just take the safety in that spot. It would have been better than throwing the pick six, when he was trying to make a play happen. I think the difference here with the Jets is that, unlike the Titans, who actually have like a surprisingly decent defense, they're not great against the run, which is why the Colts screwed up, by the way. They should have, when they got it 14-0, it's time to feed Jonathan Taylor, and they still tried to keep passing. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. I think tonight you're going to see a whole heck of a lot of Jonathan Taylor and a whole heck of a lot of Marlon Mack. There's a real opportunity against a Jets defense that is basically toothless to just pound the ball with those two running backs, let them work, let them carry the load, shorten the game, force the Jets into comeback mode, and then prey on them defensively. So Carson Wentz should be minimized in this game, if anything.
Okay, the Indianapolis Colts sit at 3-5 right now, second place in the division. Kansas City Chiefs are 4-4. We know they've struggled, but I mentioned the Chiefs because Sportsline, they run the simulations, they have the numbers. Sportsline actually likes the Colts' chances of making the playoffs even more than the Chiefs. Colts, 39% chance to make it. Chiefs, just a 34% chance to make it. Will Brinson, help us make sense of those numbers, if you can, if you want.
Oh, for sure. 2 words, Hassel. Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, they get to play the Jags
next week,
twice.
Right?
Yeah, they play the Jags. Well, it's actually 4 words. Jets, Jaguars, and Texans, right? That'll qualify. They get the Jets this week. They have the Jaguars twice remaining on their schedule, and they have the Texans. Basically, what that Sportsline model is doing, not to put words in Mr. Stephen O's mouth, but I think what it's doing is saying, all right, the Chiefs are probably a better team, and Mahomes is probably a better player. And there are some tough games on here for the Colts, including the Bills and the Bucks in back-to-back weeks. The Patriots are playing well. The Cardinals look like a top-tier team, and the Raiders, not an easy win either. But because those 4 games, the Jets, Jags, and Texans, and then the Jags again, those are easier to win than the bye week that they have in Week 14. They should go 4-0 in those games, and they pull off an upset or 2 along the way. That probably gets them to 5 more wins, and maybe that helps them sneak into the playoffs, I think, is the logic there.
Brinson, I think the Sportsline simulation went 10,000 times to get these numbers that the Colts have a better shot at the playoffs. I did 10,000 simulations in my head while you were talking, and I think the Chiefs have a better chance. You mentioned that the Colts have those 4 games they should win, Jacksonville twice, the Texans, the Jets. Even if they win those, let's just say right now they win those, that gets them to 7-5. You add 4 wins to what they have right now at 3-5. And then you said they have to get multiple wins. They don't just have to get multiple wins. They're going to have to go at least 3-2 in those 5 other tough games you mentioned, the Bills, the Buccaneers, the Patriots, the Cardinals, the Raiders. That's not going to be easy. That would get them to 10-7. That doesn't guarantee them a playoff spot. But the reason I like the Chiefs is because, look, they're 1 game ahead of Indianapolis right now, and that's a big deal because if the Chiefs just go 6-3 down the stretch, then the Colts have to go 7-2 just to have the same record. And so that is just a lot to ask of an Indy team that hasn't been very consistent all season. And not that the Chiefs have been consistent, but if I'm going to be picking out of 2 inconsistent teams, I'm going to take the one that has Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. So I like the Chiefs' playoff chances a little bit more than the Colts at this point.
Sportsline says the Colts have a better chance of making it than the Chiefs, and Will Brinson's backing it up. They do have some easier wins on the schedule, but like Breech said, those 4 wins only get them to 7. They're probably going to need at least 9 wins, maybe even 10. Will?
Well, you asked me to explain why Sportsline did what it did.
You'd still pick the Chiefs, though.
Oh yeah, I'll take.
Okay.
Like I agree. I think I would take the Chiefs as well. The other thing too is that I'm not sure what the odds for the division win for the Colts are in that simulation. But if you think about with the Titans having the 2-game lead over them, even with Derrick Henry being out, the Colts are still going to have to beat the Titans by 1 game. And that looks really hard given Tennessee's schedule, again, even without Henry. And for the Chiefs, a much better chance of winning the division, I think, than Indianapolis too.
Well, first things first, the Colts have to win tonight if they want any chance of being in the playoff discussion right now. They're a game and a half out of that last wild card spot. So let's get back to the picks tonight. Top prop, and sorry, Will, sit this one out for now because we have to start with the kicker prop from John Breech.
Always with the kicker prop here, Hassel. Last week, I gave everyone Mason Crosby over 2.5 extra points. Of course, that one hit. So tonight we are going back with the kickers, and we are going with Michael Badgley of the Colts and over 1.5 field goals. Now, on paper, this seems like a crazy prop to bet on because Badgley has not hit multiple field goals in any game this season. He's hit 1 in each of the past 3 weeks, but he has not gotten to 2. Now, the reason I like this, though, is because the Jets are giving up 2.7 field goals per game this year, which is the most of any team in the NFL. And a reason is because their defense is kind of sneaky good in the red zone. Teams get down there, they force them to kick field goals. I think that's what we're going to see tonight. Badgley only has to kick 2. I won't be surprised if he kicks 3 field goals, and I think he hits the over here.
I will take the over on Michael Carter receiving yards. The rookie running back out of North Carolina has sort of taken over the lead back role here in New York for this LaFleur offense. And when you look at what Mike White, as we talked about earlier, he likes to dink and dunk. He likes to throw it short. Carter had 14 targets last week for a running back out of the backfield. Look at the target numbers for him and Jamison Crowder, Elijah Moore. I mean, these guys who operate near and around the line of scrimmage well are going to be featured heavily in this Jets pass offense, which we presume is probably going to be in catch-up mode if the Colts do what they should do as a 10-point favorite. I like Carter to catch at least 5 or 6 balls here and should be able to easily surpass 35.5 receiving yards.
All right, those are the props. Let's get to some picks on the game. The total here is at 46 right now, and we're about the halfway point of the season. The unders have actually been coming in at a higher rate than the overs. The unders at about 55% so far in the season. Will?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this particular game, if I'm looking at the total, I would probably go under. By the way, I apologize. That prop's actually up to 40.5. We gave it out yesterday at 35.5, up 5 yards. Still like it at 40.5 on Michael Carter. I do like the under in this spot, though, because I think Indy will take the air out of the ball, and they will try to run a ton and get out of here with a win. If I'm taking it against the spread, I want the Colts, though, because I know that the math on the 10.5, the road dogs and all that have been good. I just think the Jets are probably a little bit of fool's gold coming off of last week.
Man, classic Brinson taking the under and classic Breech. I'm going with the over. I think we split every week on this, but I feel like I actually have a valid reason this week. The Jets have been surprisingly good. Their games just end up with a high total. Over the past 4 weeks, they've gone over the 46-point mark for both teams. The total has. I mean, we saw it, a shootout with Cincinnati. They got to 65 points. 2 weeks ago, the Patriots alone got over the 50-point mark. So if the Jets play badly, the Colts might put up 30 or 40 points. If Mike White's the real deal, we might see another shootout here. And then also, you look at the Colts, 3 of the past 4 weeks, their total points scored in the game has gone over 46. So we've just seen both these teams involved in high-scoring games that usually get into the 50s. And because of that, I like the over.
Okay, Breech, this is a big number here at 10.5 for the Colts, especially for a team that's 3-5 right now, but they really need this win. And you mentioned now that you got tape on Mike White. Can he really put together back-to-back games like that? Highly doubtful. Which side are you going to fall on here?
Yeah, this number scares me. It's 10.5. That was the same number they had against the Bengals on Sunday. They didn't think they had a chance at covering. Not only did they cover it, they won. This week, I don't think it is going to be as close. You look at the Colts, if they have done one thing well this season, it is taking care of business against bad teams. They have played 4 teams that currently have a losing record. They won 3 of those games by double digits, and the only one they didn't win was against the Seahawks in Week 1. The Seahawks had Russell Wilson at that time, so very understandable loss. But other than that, when they play bad teams, they win, and I think they do the same thing here. I think we see the Colts roll to I'll say 2-touchdown win, so they cover the 10.5 comfortably.
Yeah, I think the Colts are going to cover here as well, and you can see it when I got so flustered by that Michael Carter prop moving up 5 yards. I just panicked and started giving out every pick that was on my brain. The Colts, look, this is a team that I don't think the Colts are elite, but the Jets are really, really bad. And people are too caught up on last week's performance by Mike White and then the loss by the Colts, and that's what's sort of gotten this sort of build of Jets momentum for people who want to take them plus 10.5. You look at it, it just seems obvious that the Jets are going to stay within 10 points, but you forget the Jets are bad. The Colts to win by two, maybe 3 touchdowns.
Okay, always good to be with you, gentlemen, on Thursday afternoon and evening, getting ready to kick off Week 9 in the NFL. Colts hosting the Jets, and the guys like the Colts to cover the 10.5. You can hear both those guys on the Pick 6 podcast. Will hosts it. John Breech and the others. Yeah, we'll let them in every once in a while. Latest episode got your picks and props even more for this game if you want to take a listen to that. Coming up at 6 o'clock Eastern, CBS Sports HQ powered by Sportsline. We do it each and every weekday. Best bets, props, DFS advice, and a ton of futures as well.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.